So I want to talk about a subject that's going to come up when it comes to inventing, and that is money. Where are you going to get the money to fund your product? And notice I didn't say to fund your idea, because remember, ideas have no value. What we're looking to do is turn our idea into a reality, and that's going to cost money. Interestingly enough, even after all these videos I've been making, somebody asked me in the comments why they couldn't just take their 3D model, show it to people, and get money. Now, maybe he hasn't been paying attention to the way the real world works here. In the real world, nobody's going to pay you anything for a 3D model or even a prototype. And I think that's where people get a little bit confused. Remember, when you're talking about your invention, you're actually talking about making people believe in you. They're not really investing in your idea or your product. They're investing in your ability to follow through. And I think a lot of people miss this point. They get so wrapped up in their idea that they think people are just going to hand them money because, hey, maybe it will change the world. But guess what? People still aren't going to invest. Because they need to know that if they give you their hard-earned money, that you're going to follow through and be able to sell the product to return their investment. Sometimes inventors don't want to hear the fact that if you're going to take money from people, you're going to have to figure out how to pay them back. It doesn't matter if it's a loan or an investment in your company and idea. You still have to have a plan to pay them back, or you're never going to get any investors. Now, this video is going to be talking about a couple of things. There's many different ways to get investors. One is to self-finance, which is the way I always recommend it. Because in the past, I have gotten large investments for some of my businesses and my product ideas, and it doesn't always go as planned. It doesn't even mean that your product's going to fail and things are going to go wrong that way. Your product could be a huge success, and you still run the risk of investors getting greedy as they see you trying to grow your company. Because you got to think of it this way. You're passionate about taking all the money you're making and growing the company, hiring more employees, building an infrastructure, whatever it takes to build up your business. But investors might only be interested in the cash that they gave you and getting a profit for that investment. So you're going to have to weigh both things. Are you going to grow the company, or are you going to keep your investors happy? And that's why for me, I've learned I honestly just self-finance. Now, it's easy for me to say because I've been doing this long enough where investing in products is sort of built into my business model. But when you're first starting out, I know that can be a problem. But keep this in mind, and I've talked about this in previous videos. I really don't want you to spend more than you can afford to create your first product. It's a learning experience. You should be out there defining markets and finding simple products that you can build and sell on the internet. I've done it, so can you. I've made expensive products and I've made cheap products. It just depends on the market and what I feel like doing at the time. But for you guys starting out, I want you to stay below that maybe $5,000 investment, maybe $2,500, and I'm not kidding, you can do it. And you can make a lot of money with just a few $1,000 investment. Now, knowing the demographics of this channel, I know that even $2,500 may be a lot of money. But the next time you're thinking of buying a PlayStation or a new video game, think about putting that money aside and holding off and using it for your invention idea. Because really, you're going to need 3D prints for your prototype. You're going to need all kinds of other pieces along the way that you're not going to be able to get for free. You're going to have to pay for them somehow. So back to this issue of why can't I just make a 3D model and show it to people and get money? Well, because you don't have a business plan. And that's why nobody's going to give you money. It's not the 3D model that's a problem. It's the implementation of your idea and the plan to start selling it that is what's going to attract investors. That's when they're going to start believing in you. They're not going to believe in you if all you have is a 3D model. So you can talk about it and show how enthusiastic you are, with the idea and how great of an idea is and how it's going to just be in every household. None of that matters. Because if you don't have a plan to get it in front of all the people that are potential customers, how do you think you're going to sell it? How do you think the investors are going to get their money back? You need a plan. So there's a couple of ways. Like I said, self-financing would be the first, which is the one I recommend. But then there may be people out there that have a product that's a little more expensive. Now, unless you have been machining and designing electronics and building molds and all that stuff, which I'm sure there's some people out there that have those skills already, I don't recommend this next level because you have to have a lot of experience behind you as a product designer. There are just so many different steps, so many different materials, so many different processes, equipment, fulfillment issues. It just goes on and on and on that you need to learn when you get to this next higher level. And if you've never even made 100 products and shipped them from your house, you're not going to know how all this stuff works, and you're going to be risking a lot more money. But if you're at that point where maybe your investment is $75,000, $100,000, $150,000 to get started, because maybe it's an electronic circuit board, it needs injection molds for the cases, the boxes. It's a retail product, so maybe it has to be packaged like, Apple products and all the other electronic stuff today. And that can all get very expensive. So yes, it's very easy to get up to $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. In the beginning, if this is your first one, I would try to stay less than 75, but it depends on what your tolerance level is. So how are you going to raise this money if you don't have it yourself? You can self-finance and use a credit card, but that can get really expensive. You'll actually have to use a couple credit cards if we're talking over $75,000. You could get a second out on your mortgage. Again, these are things that I really don't recommend if you've never done this before, because this is where it gets risky and there's no guarantee that you're going to succeed. I could make about 10 videos on all my failures, so just keep that in mind. There's another couple of things you can do here. One would be called a family and friends round. There's a really good video here on YouTube about the founder of Alibaba. And he needed $50,000 to start, and the way he did it, he got 13 family and friends to make small investments of a few $1,000s each. Now, he was in China, which I imagine means that he got labor cheap, because he then took that $50,000 and ran a business for a year before he was able to even get his first customer. Nobody believed in the idea. And as we all know, they just had their largest day where they made something like, what was it, $1 billion in 8 minutes or something? And the day turned out to be $30 billion. Just because people don't believe in your idea, we all know that shouldn't stop you, because nobody knows better than you what the path to success is. And you can do it. But family and friends would be the second round. And that's probably the safest bet if you get small investments from a few people. That way, if it's only a few $1,000s each, you're not going to really upset anybody, especially if you try and keep them informed along the way. Now, at this level too, you can talk about crowdfunding, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. But a word of warning with this, which I don't mention in the other videos, those websites have become sort of saturated, and they really don't attract the interest from news media and other places to generate enough traffic for you. So if you're going to do one of those projects on Kickstarter or other crowdfunding sites, you're going to need your own marketing campaign. And trust me, there are so many scammers out there trying to take money from you. You could wind up giving away or throwing away all your money before you even start your project. And then when the project is a success, you may not have anything left because of all your advertising money that was spent. So be careful even with Kickstarter and other crowdfunding sites. It can be risky nowadays. Gone are the days where you put something up there and it just goes viral. You need a huge following. That's one of the reasons I don't do it anymore. Honestly, I can do my own promotions and it's not worth the hassle. The Kickstarter crowd is not the crowd it used to be either. They're not as willing to work with you and be nice to you if you take longer, because they think it's like Amazon where the product should be there within a week. But it is a good avenue if you're willing to put in the time and work hard at it. but it's not your only option. The last and final way to raise money would be called venture capital. Now, I can tell you that I tried this in the beginning, and I even had working prototypes and was ready to go. I met with a few venture capital companies and few investment banks, things like that. They offered me $2 million for my original track stick for 80% of the company. Now keep in mind, I had already built and designed the product, had the working software, the molds were almost completed, and we were ready to go for sales. And they wanted me to give up 80% of my company. Now, for some of you, that may be an option. If you have a product that requires a really large infrastructure and a growth potential of millions and millions of dollars, it may be worth your while. But I will tell you that you're going to need people that are experienced at raising venture capital, and you're going to have what's called an exit strategy, which means you're going to have to be prepared to have your company sold and lose control of everything. And that also means that if you don't perform, there's a very good chance that you won't even be running your company in a very short time. So when you give up 80% of your company to other people, you give up pretty much all control, and you spend your days fighting with boards and other employees such as CFOs, and you may not even be the CEO at that point. So you'll be fighting with him or her or whoever else is in charge of you and your boss. Another thing I might add about my opinion of venture capital. Yes, there have been a few product companies that have been bought out by large corporations, publicly traded, Facebook, Apple, and all that. But that is a game that those companies play. They are not really product companies. And while you are able to make millions of dollars if everything works out okay, I'm not sure it's worth the stress if you're just looking to invent a product. You may want to set your sights up much lower in the beginning, because for a small investment, you could find yourself making millions of dollars without all the added headache. So this is something to think about when you're looking for investors. You're looking for venture capital, family and friends, self-financing. These are all the options that are available to you. Some of them will get you started right away, and some of them could take you years to pursue. So that's another issue. If your product is a technology product that has a short run lifespan, venture capital and that long tail strategy may not be good for you, because the product could be obsolete before you ever make any money. I hope you take these options seriously and decide what the best path is for you. If you're not sure what the best path is, you may want to talk to your accountant and see what he suggests. The funny thing is here, my accountant regretted for a long time that she wasn't the one that invested in my first big product when I was talking to her about venture capital. So you'd be surprised who was really interested in what you do.